So just to be informed.
Yes, sir.
This is being videotaped and recorded.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll start these. And then we'll start because David is not gonna make it tonight, he's working.
All right.
So, come together, we had a discussion with the town lawyer. Went through and listened to his spiel, and then we all took our books home, and we're gonna look at them and come up with some ideas, or if anybody had any questions, to get back to him. And I apologize for, my Hotmail account is gone, or I can't get onto it. So the G White one is the one I have to use now.
Okay.
So if you send anything to me, it's gotta come to the G White 50, whatever it is,
Yeah.
at Gmail. Otherwise, I'm not gonna get it.
Okay.
But Brooks wanted to meet again, and I guess we really needed to meet again. I screwed you guys the last time. I don't know what I was thinking, I guess I wasn't thinking, so. I guess, we'll get started with any ideas that anyone has. Or do we wanna try to set a date? The only date time that David seems to be able to make it would be Thursday through Sunday if it was in the evenings. Or he could make mornings.
Thursday through Sunday evenings.
It doesn't really say whether it's, I am available on Thursday to Sunday and mornings, any day, David, is when he said.
Okay, Thursdays and Sundays.
Thursday through,
Through
Thursday to Sunday.
well, let's get
So
Friday.
Thursday, yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I could do, if I knew which one it was, I could do Thursday at 5, if you can't be.
I cannot do Thursday at 5 because I'm leading a youth group. So. Now, when is it, like I say, I can make it certain days in the middle of the day, as long as, I mean. we
Well,
cer-
see, that's kinda hard for me because I
Right.
work from 5 to 3:30.
Right.
I'm in-
3:30 at night?
No, during the day.
Okay, yeah.
I actually go in at 4 o'clock and work until 3:30.
Is that you that go?
I don't even touch down, you don't even hear me unless you're a bull band. I don't know what Randy works, but it must be during the day.
Yeah, during the day,
So-
but, you know, but as long as I know in advance, I can get out early and I can come. You know, I come home every night, obviously, so I'm just up the road. So, you know, as long as we can do a 5 o'clock meeting, that's the best for me, but whatever you guys think.
Well, that's gonna be the problem, because who wants to give up a Friday? You know, or Saturday, or a Sunday.
Right.
Right, and we're also, what TV is committed to filming all the basketball games. Girls and boys and JVs because of the limited, attendance, the live broadcasts. So that schedule is still moving around.
Right, but I don't know how many more meetings that we're really actually gonna need. I mean, basketball won't start until probably, well, I could have some scrimmages or something, I guess, but the games probably won't start until first, second week in December, if then. So we would still have 3 or 4 weeks that we could do something probably.
First week in December is only a week off.
I know. So, how about we do this? Seeing as how we are in different times, we have the technology. we can hold our meeting and have a discussion, not make any decisions. That'll give David and anybody else a chance to weigh in on the discussion so that they can have input on things that were said. And then maybe sometime in the future, we can all meet together, person to person.
I would say with like tonight, we just discussed what we was gonna discuss.
Yep,
And David can either come on in and listen to the tape, you know, and get some ideas, like maybe, well, he'd have to come up and get it Thursday. He might be able to get it Thursday,
what, the tape?
and listen to it.
I'll just put it online. Put it on YouTube.
Well, that's an option, but I mean, that's gonna have to be up to him, but, so.
No, I mean, we've got nothing to hide. This is a public proceeding, that way, you know, everybody in town will know what was said and what was discussed.
That's the only thing we can offer him is to pick it up and go from there, but. So let's, who wants to start with, you said you had some discussions?
Well, as many of you know, local government has been passion of mine since I was a teenager, or before that. My dad died when I was 10, and my mother used to bring me to all the town meetings. She was ballot clerk after my father died, so my brothers wouldn't fight. So we were riding home one night, and I started questioning how come they penalize the people who are poor and can't pay their taxes, and they give the ones who can afford it a discount? I was blah, blah, blah. My mother pulled in the yard and said, listen, I don't want to ever see you go to a meeting, keep your mouth shut, and then walk home and bitch. That isn't how the system works. So, you know, I've studied local government. I mean, I've been a selectman, I've been on the planning board, served in many capacities, studied on how our local government changed. You know, we went from a town clerk, we used to drive into Newry trips, pay our taxes. The selectmen made all the decisions on the roads, all of that. And then we got once the ski area started growing, tax base started growing, we needed to expand. So they hired a town administrator, which was fine at the time. I mean, we grew. There were 3 people who worked in the office. Everybody had a certain duty. Everything was written down on paper. The accountant came in and checked everything. There was a built-in system with checks and balances. When I was selectman, I get into a lot of trouble because I raised a lot of issues, and it got personal. And I've said things during this administration, and it's gotten personal. And I realized that it's not the person, it's the position, because they get all the heat. You know, if you got one person responsible for taking all the money in, accounting for it, paying it all out, and you've got 2 basic, you know, clerks, even though the lawyer said, well, you have accountants, there's still no system of checks and balances. And I don't care, human nature is human nature. Our government was set up so that there was checks and balances. So, I'm not, after reading everything over, realizing that we have a pretty flexible system right now, I think that possibly we should tweak it, define the position, and separate so that there is an in-house system of checks and balances. In other words, you have a tax collector and she does all those books. You have someone who does all, they're the ones who do the checks and balances. The town administrator position, to me, in the past 10 or 15 years, there's been too much extracurricular activities. To me, the push towards regionalizing everything is the wrong direction. Because if you look at the history of governments, regionalism is basically socialism, where you have unelected councils, AvCog, which produced this, Androscoggin Valley Council of Governments, made up of unelected officials making policy and directing local governments. It seems to have brought the issue to me to a focus during this COVID, when we were basically shut off from our local government. Even though we had the FEMA money and could have done a lot of things remotely if we'd used that for technology. That's water under the bridge. It was confusing time for everybody. I don't want to blame anybody for any bad decisions. I mean, we're all freaking out what the hell's going on. But I think it brought to me into focus the need to tweak our local government so that we have that checks and balances in, so that one person isn't running the whole show. If you take a look at Bethel, the town manager position, Loretta's learned a lot since she's been in the town manager form of government, where she isn't the one that takes all the heat. She doesn't take the heat for the books, for the highways, you have those departments. She just manages it. So all the eggs aren't in the same basket there. There's a system of checks and balances. And it's not necessarily that anybody's doing anything wrong. I'm not accusing anything wrong. But we're all human, and we need to be kept accountable. So that was, that was my impetus for starting this, coming to the selectmen, seeing just how we can tweak it.
When you say tweak it, does that include, when I hear you say tweak, that's short of a town manager model.
Right.
So are you saying that we shouldn't pursue the town manager model, but we should take what we have and change it somehow?
Yeah, because the town manager model, as James Casafikas explained to us, the selectmen actually lose.
Yeah, well,
some authority.
that was my thought exactly, that's
Lose some
why, it
authority.
seemed to me the things you're talking about wanting to see happen would be worse with the town manager
Yes.
model. Yeah, so,
Yep.
I mean, if we're gonna drop that, let's drop that idea right now and then work on the other things, rather
Yes.
than try to talk about a town manager. Maybe some people want a town manager, I don't, for the
Right.
reasons you just outlined, but.
Yes.
But then I guess the question is, does this committee have that, is that part of our charge, or are we supposed to just deal with town manager, yes or no?
Well, that's kind of what I believe. That. This committee is to see whether we should present, the town manager form of government to the town for a vote.
Right.
And that's what we're in charge of doing. I don't know, like you said, William, if we're in charge of tweaking the system like you're talking. I don't think this committee has that
Can I
authority.
make a thing on that? The town manager wrote those bogus rules for this committee. Those didn't come out of any book. We are not to be micromanaged by the system that we're examining. This is a democracy.
I forgot my copy. Do you have a copy of that charge? What we're supposed to do? The resolution or whatever it was on the board, yeah.
I mean,
Regardless if she's the one that wrote this up. That's right, maybe you got a point there, but it's still, we are in charge of whether we should recommend to the town to go with the town manager form of government or stay like we are.
I think within.
As far as tweaking the system and that, I don't think that's our charge of this particular group.
I totally disagree.
That's the way the bylaws are written. This is approved by the selectmen, I guess, and it doesn't, it says, for the purpose of determining the differences in the current form and to make recommendation to the select board and or town meeting on which form of government should be used, i.e. town manager or current.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. I don't think we have, it seems to me that what we could do is say, okay, we've concluded the town manager motto isn't the best one. That's part of that charge. And then we go say, but we recommend that a group deal with some of these concerns in some fashion. But that's not our charge, the way I read it. I mean, I don't want to be simplistic, Brooks, but it doesn't say come back with suggestions of how to better manage the town. It says, do you want a town manager or not?
Yeah, well, this is why I objected to this, because it was
Well,
written by the town administrator, such a narrow view, which doesn't even, that's not in any book. That, in any exploratory committee like this, it should be given the latitude.
that's fine, but that's what the selectmen passed. Whoever wrote it or didn't write it, that's what the selectmen passed. That's what we're bound by.
So I would make a motion that we petition the selectmen to allow us a little bit broader scope so that we can totally understand the situation and make informed decisions on a recommendation going forward. Because if we come into another crisis, if we've got one person running the ship, it's gonna be the citizens are out in the dark. So,
But now you want us to make that decision without David being here. And we weren't gonna make a decision like that,
well,
just a few minutes ago.
we can, I believe that if it's protested, do we have a quorum?
We would have a quorum, but that's not what we said earlier in this, I guess before we started this meeting,
All right,
was that we could have this discussion, David could listen to the tapes, and then we would have another meeting to make a decision.
okay,
Well, that's certainly true, Gary, but I'm just guessing, if we all four voted along the lines of Brooks's motion, whatever it is, it wouldn't matter what I mean, I know I don't want to cut them out of decision making, but in terms of moving this forward, we can inform them that's what we did. All we're doing is saying, we've come to the conclusion that that we don't think town manager's right, but we do think there are issues that we should be allowed to pursue, or some group should pursue, something like that. Now, I don't know if we all four would agree with what Brooks said.
Well, there is, but there was a time, part of the problem has been that we haven't had the 3 people in the town office. And now we are up to 3 people. So now things are getting checked more. Because when stuff comes in, all 3 of them are responsible for checking different things. So
is that defined? in job descriptions, there is a, see, this is the thing that bothers me, is that if you don't
We
have,
would,
if you don't have, you know, it's the basic separation of powers, checks and balances. You know, now that it's gone all electronic,
Well, I think we're ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah.
I mean,
right,
you're talking about what should happen in the office and who can do what, whether it's a job
Right, right.
description. That's not really our focus. I mean, it might be,
No.
but it's not. And that's why I'm saying, in order to be clean about it, I would favor sort of what you said, something along the lines of, we've determined at this point that the town manager model would not serve us well, but we see some matters that could be better managed, and
Well-
and would like to have selectmen's permission to either proceed on that or let them appoint another group to proceed on that. And then we could start to talk, because a lot of what you're saying is, you know, accounting 101. I mean, there's lots of good stuff about how you run a system in terms of checks and balances, and that, you know, it would take a genius to do that. To prove it would take a genius, I've done that in organizations, and, you know, so it's easy to set up checks and balances, and, you know, it may be, from what I remember the last time, well, I won't go that way, but anyways. All I'm saying is that I would feel funny about going ahead with an elaborate discussion of what should be done when it's beyond what the selectmen appointed us to do. That would call into question, I think, you know, it's a, why are you going beyond our charge?
and this is part of why I brought this whole thing up, because it's, instead of democracy, it's a top-down.
Well, I don't know, but I'm not sure what you mean by that, but it doesn't matter. I mean, that's to be discussed, I guess, at some point by someone. I know, am I off base, Gary or Randy, when I'm agreeing with Brooks that we ought to close the one thing and ask?
well, the purpose of this committee
Yeah.
is just to
Yeah,
determine whether or not to recommend to the town, to change to the town manager form of government. And should we be tweaking the other? Probably, but that's not
that's not our,
our immediate
yeah,
thing right now. Could it be,
but that's,
if we brought it back to the board? I don't know, I can only speak for myself. You know, I don't know what the other two would say. I don't know why they wouldn't, but, or form a committee, or, you know, to see how we could tweak it. But as far as checks and balances, I think it's pretty good, because those books get audited every month, and we sign off on them.
Who audits it?
The people that do the auditing during the year, the books for the entire year. They come in and they do a monthly accounting that we sign off on. So everything is getting checked by more than just the top. And they have been doing that. Well, right now it would be the third person's job would be to go through those numbers, just like the last one was. And when we had that little bit of discrepancy, that was found. So as far as things being checked and stuff, that is being done. And it is being signed off. Whatever else more that we wanna tweak it, I don't know if it's that much. I guess it's time to do this part of it and then make a suggestion if that's what the group feels we should do.
When you say it's somebody else that's checking a third party, is that an accounting company?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought, yeah. So it's after the fact then, in fairness to what you're saying is that, it just, the check was written, yes, it went, it's accounted for. So you're thinking probably more of something beforehand. So Brooks, I would ask you, do you know of another model that you like? You mentioned Bethel. I mean, can you shed any light onto that, or?
Well, it's only because they have the different offices defined.
Okay,
See, you got the town manager, who's the town clerk, who's the secretary.
so they use the town manager plan, but they tweak it, is what you're saying, or is it
No,
a town
I mean, in the
administrator?
town of Newry, we've got a town administrator who officially has all of those duties,
Okay,
and everybody else is just a deputy. So, if I'm saying those positions, if they were separate, then it would be that person's responsibility. One person would be responsibility for one checking everybody else.
right.
Other than,
And how many extra people would that encompass, do you think?
it wouldn't have to encompass any more. It would just be defining,
Responsibilities within, rather than having it all Amy's responsibility.
right, exactly.
I'm just trying to understand it, that's all.
Yeah. That way, you'd have a job description for the, secretary, treasurer. That would be their job, taking care of the books. And further define the duties of the town administrator. Does the town administrator have to be involved in all the other organizations? Outside organizations? To me, there's enough going on here, and the push towards regionalization is, if you take a look at the school district, parents pretty much don't have anything to say what goes on in the school district other than through the school board. Not that there's anything wrong going on, but if you take the principle of freedom, we're losing that freedom. Instead of democratic system, the school system is turning more socialist. So, which means the parents don't have much to say, other than through the school board.
That's getting away from what our,
No, it's not, because our towns are being modeled on the school system model, where you have one guy at the top, you got all of these different councils, all of these outside organizations, and the citizens and taxpayers of the town don't get the full attention.
but if you go to any of these other towns, the town managers are all involved in all that stuff that you're talking about.
I don't care. Does it do, what benefit does it, you gotta weigh the cost and benefit of being involved in some of those programs.
Some of the benefits would be, like with the dump, I suppose, the transfer station, it's cheaper, supposedly, if we're all in it together. It's just like anything, there's pros and cons of both ways,
There is, I agree.
and I'm not gonna say that I agree full-heartedly with you about this regionalization, because to me, some of it I do not like. But And that's some of this other stuff, but by going to these meetings, any decision that, they can't make a decision without coming back to the town. Whether we, participate in what they're talking about.
I know, but what also disturbs me is the nature of citizen involvement in our elections. And a lot of it is people don't know what's going on, or what it's all about. There's, town meeting has changed. We didn't even have a town meeting one year. Not anybody's fault, but people have become disillusioned because they don't know anything's going on. They didn't know all about, the planning board changes. A lot of people didn't even know what that was all about.
But that's not this.
It is, because it's all the big
It's,
picture.
but it's not. I mean, look, just to put a line, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move that we recommend to the selectmen that the town of Newry not at this time pursue the town manager model. Period. And we can go on to other things if we want, but that's my motion.
I'll second
All right, it's been moved and seconded that this committee will recommend to the town managers not to go forward with the
Town manager.
town manager form of government. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Now, if you wanna have another motion that we ask them, selectmen to either have this group or some group pursue some of the things you talked about, that's another matter, but.
it. Are we
I just
allowed
think we
to
need
just
to-
have a free conversation like this? We're not making any decisions. It's kinda hard to get, being in isolation, having all of these, analyzing all of this and realizing that, we got all of this FEMA money, but it never even filtered out to any of the local people. What was it used for?
I don't think it's been used for anything right yet. It's been, but to me, if we wanna make that motion to go back to the selectmen and make another committee or use this committee to discuss what you're saying, then we'll do that. But for us to sit here in just an open meeting because we want to discuss things, we don't even have the full group here, for one thing.
So,
Well, it works, I don't feel I have anything in front of me to deal with here. I mean, I hear what you're saying, I hear what Gary says. I have no idea. I've never gone in, sat in that office and looked at what's going on. If I were on a committee to explore that, that's the first thing I'd do. I'd go in and I'd try to understand what was happening. So, but I don't know anything. You guys are just talking about things that I don't know anything about. So it's of no use to me to discuss it. And that's not meant to say you shouldn't discuss it, but I don't really want to sit here and listen to a discussion when I can't participate and I don't have any evidence. I don't have any information. I'm just sort of helpless. You might as well be talking about, how to make a Thanksgiving turkey as far as I'm concerned.
I guess that sort of proves one of my points, when I grew up, there was a lot of participation, a lot of discussion, town meetings. Everything was discussed at town meetings, everything was decided at town meetings. Recently, it has morphed into, it's just a formality, it's a done deal.
I don't disagree with you, but I can't turn that back. I remember a time when the United States Congress worked, and people actually went there and passed bills. That's gone too. I can't deal with it. I mean, it's not within my purview to change that. I don't disagree with you, Brooks, but it's of no value to me to sort of lament
No,
that. Let's see if there's a problem, let's fix it. And I'm all for fixing problems, but I need to know what the problem is exactly and how you fix it. And if it's a case of, you know, ensuring the integrity of the financial accounting system, that can be done. If it's whatever it is, if you don't want people to go off to regional meetings, you know, I'm sure selectmen could do something to stop that, but I don't, it's not our, you know, it's an interesting conversation maybe, but not one I feel I can get anything out of or contribute to.
Well, I guess I'm used to home rule power, and we're losing that.
Well,
And that, and state of Maine is one of the few states that have that in their constitution. Which means that ultimately the citizens decide. We're losing that.
I don't disagree with you, but I can't change it.
So, can I make a motion that, the chairman bring before the selectmen permission to further discuss the form of government that we have?
Question, is it the form of government or is it the financial operation that you're getting at?
Just just the way that things are done. In other words, I would like to see individual officers that are responsible for, so that there's a built-in checks and balances, not just a statement from the auditors, a town system. That's how it always was. You know, how many times this year have you signed off on the budget 2 or 3 months down the road? You know, signed off on.
So Brooke, suppose your motion says to study or make recommendation about the organization of the town, would that
Right.
do it?
I
Does
guess
that
so.
cover what you mean? Because when you say forms of government, then you're back to the town manager versus the blah, blah, blah. But since we're not talking about that now,
Right,
it's the organization of town government.
organization of the town government.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that we may want to discuss is switching to 5 selectmen. Simply because if you know, there's a lot of times that you may not be able to get a quorum,
Right.
and 2 people don't want to make a decision without the 3rd one.
Well, that would be covered by organization of the town government, right?
Right,
So if your motion is that we recommend that the selectmen, either using this committee or appointing a new committee, review the organization of town government, is that? I'll look for that. I'll second.
okay, I'll make that the motion,
Okay,
the way that you phrased it.
So was that, we're gonna make it this group or another group?
Yeah, up to the selectmen, I
Yeah.
guess, right?
To discuss operational,
Or to make to review and make recommendations about, something like that.
Yeah, I think that would cover it. Make recommendations. I mean, you know, it would be good if we had some positive ideas,
Yeah.
you know, to talk about, as opposed to just, this is what we do.
Yeah, so,
If there was some feedback of things that could improve it.
Yeah. And, yeah, I guess it isn't clear what the actual system of checks and balances is in the town. I mean, it's delegated. I mean, don't even put that in the motion or anything, but,
that'd be part of what the group would look at.
right.
so would the selectmen appoint this group or another to discuss, review, and make recommendations to,
I guess, to the selectmen or the town meeting? Is that the way it's phrased in this one? It says something.
Well, the selectmen form the committee,
And then the
and
committee report back to the selectmen.
in the selectmen, Amy proposed the guidelines, bylaws for the committee, and the selectmen approved them.
right, but it's been moved and seconded to go back to the selectmen to appoint this group or another to discuss, review, and make recommendations to the selectmen to take before the town.
I think you'd have to, wouldn't you? Wouldn't it have to
Do
be
we have to
voted?
go before the town
Yeah.
before we can really,
Change the course of this committee, you mean? What?
No, whatever the
Oh, and if there was
recommendations,
any final.
Oh, yeah.
whatever the
of course
recommendation
we
be,
would.
would have to go to the
Yeah.
Of
town.
course we would.
right,
But does it say about the organization of town government? Is that in? I didn't remember if I heard that, Gary.
all right, before the town, the organization of the town government.
Or that goes back to make, review and make recommendations about the organization of town government to the selectmen, right?
Or just give us permission to talk about alternatives.
Well,
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to give this group or
Yes.
another group permission to talk about alternatives.
or recommend, to
Or
review and make
recommendations.
recommendations about the organization of town government. Yeah. Make those recommendations, the selectmen for the whole town. That's
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. So that should pretty much conclude our meeting tonight.
So we don't have to worry about when this scheduled meeting on Sunday morning, huh?
Not until we know what,
Yeah,
Well,
well,
So,
how this is gonna go.
I have one more thing. Wasn't there a time frame that was put into those bylaws that we had to be done by a certain time?
said to meet as much as necessary or something.
Oh.
We did that.
Didn't say
We did
that?
this part.
Yeah, no, but he's asking about that. It just says, Brooks, the town manager for government review committee shall meet as necessary until the majority of the committee makes a recommendation to the board on changing of. So, no, there was no time frame. It was just
Okay.
as necessary.
So, to clarify, we're not recommending to change to a town manager, but we are recommending that we explore to tweak what we have,
Yeah.
so that we can better understand checks and balances and division of duties.
Yeah, we have two recommendations to the selectmen. One
Yep.
pushes the town manager's thing aside for
Yeah.
now. And the other one says, open up the discussion to
Yeah,
alternatives.
I was just clarifying for the record. Okay, shall we, as far as going forward, should we make a recommendation that other members view this, send us comments, questions, considerations, and try to get a consensus to meet sometime in January once the selectmen have met and discussed what we've come up with?
Well, this is all public record, so if anybody wants to come in or you're gonna put it on YouTube, they're all gonna see it. As far as this part of it, it's pretty much a done deal. The other part is I have to take it back to the selectmen and get their approval either to do as we have recommended or made a motion to continue the discussion about tweaking it. Until then, we really don't know, have anything to go on.
What do you mean, anything to go on?
We can sit here and talk all night long,
Right.
but we don't have that authority.
Right, yep, I understand.
I think if he gets the approval from the selectmen, then we can maybe meet again and then make some more defined areas. I mean, obviously going to the selectmen and getting their feedback, going to Amy, getting her feedback. I'm interested in your feedback, obviously. We put all of that together, get it on the table. Then we've got something maybe to go on. Right
Yep.
now, we're just shooting bullets.
Yeah, well,
Blanks.
the one thing that brought me to this whole thing is the lack of confidence and accountability, because it all falls on one person. And, she pretty much sets the agenda for the meeting, pretty much does the whole thing.
The agenda and all that has to be approved by the selectmen. What goes on there.
Well, I know that.
So but I don't think we could discuss it if we want to, but we don't have that, really the authority to do that.
No, we don't.
Right.
I think we're just digging ourselves more into a hole. So my recommendation now would be to adjourn this meeting and wait until we hear back from the selectmen. Or I suppose we could set up another meeting night, but I don't know when that would be. Or we don't know if it will be this group, this entire group, or whether it will be.
I would hope that, maybe you could just say this informally, I would hope they might get a few more people.
Right.
Because we're so small, and if one person can't make it, like Dave or somebody has something, it's hard to have and it'd be good to have a more representative group of people, I would think.
I guess this whole process exemplifies the problem that I've been having, is because the citizens pretty much have to wait to speak, given the opportunity to talk about something that's dear to them. They have to be approved to have that time to speak, and that's
Well,
it.
but it's sort of hard to get involved here. I mean, I'm speaking to someone from away, obviously. The rest of you guys are probably all were born here or something.
Locals.
Yeah, and it's not easy. And I was on the bylaws committee with you, and I felt I had a target on my back. Partly because I live in Sunday River, not Bear River, and partly because I was sort of an outsider. But I found that a really terrific process. I got to know you and some other people through that I really liked, and I learned more about how the government works here and so on. But it's not easy to do that. I mean, I have neighbors who are smart, have financial skills, have governance skills, have been on boards, but they wouldn't want to get involved in this because they wouldn't know that people won't like me or. So I mean, I think you open it up a bit more. There'd be more people willing. But it took me a while to get comfortable, and then of course we had our great experience on the withdrawal committee and all that. So but I tell people. When there was a call going out about, looking for committee people say to me, do you think I should do that? I say yes, but, it'll take you a little while to be maybe accepted, maybe it's just whatever, but.
Well, personally, to me, that's what makes this town so exciting. is
Yeah,
because
oh,
we-
absolutely, I agree.
We do have such a diverse community, especially now, people moving up here, working remotely.
And you find that all the time, all kinds of interesting people around here, and it makes the whole brew even more interesting.
And, you know, I can remember when Newry had its own community that was, and we were in a suburb of Bethel. You know, we had our own organizations, and, you know, to me, that's part of the thing that, I would like to see change, because of the vast, you know, knowledge and experience of the people who are retired here.
Yeah, I mean, if you looked at the people of those houses on Mount Will or something like that, you may not want to get them involved, but if you got them involved the right way, they'd have a lot to contribute, and they would identify more with the town rather than just see it as a seasonal resort.
And I think, you know, that is what I miss, is because that was the Newry of old.
Yeah, oh, I could see that.
And, you know, quite frankly, the people, the natives, are the minority. You know, they really are.
Except it's perceived that the natives run everything and that people who haven't been here for their whole lifetime shouldn't really do much. That's how it's perceived.
Well, if there's anything this committee could accomplish, I would love to see more participation.
Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting maybe they could just get more people, whoever they are, but the committee needs to be a little bigger than this.
Yep,
And maybe a little broader in terms of the kinds of people, so that, you know, you don't have that sense of being an outsider. And you know, I accept, I mean, I wasn't born here, and I know that I've lived here for 25 years, but I know I'm not a Newryman. But because slowly through committees I got to meet people,
yeah.
and I think I feel more comfortable, and I think maybe you feel more comfortable with me, maybe not. You know, have to answer that.
No, I've always had a high regard for you.
But there are a lot of people who
Yeah.
could get involved that have a lot to contribute.
Yep,
But they need to feel that it's not just for, you know, people who were born here.
maybe, you know, that's another thing. If there were more people involved, that's, you know, that's the count, that's your checks and balances.
Well, and that's gonna be one of the problems if you think about, you know, the council was saying when we saw you go through those things, the trouble with getting more selectmen, if you wanna have 5, sounds great. But you have to hold a gun to people's head to get them to do it now. You know, do you think it'd be easy to get 5 people, Gary? Boy, I don't see people jumping to do it. But there would be some people, some of these new retirees you're talking about and so on, who may have a lot of experience in local government somewhere, who might do it if they somehow felt welcome.
So we'll put this out on YouTube and share it, everybody, and let them know that we need that help.
Do we have a
Motion to adjourn.
So
All right, so moved.